The bombs that Israel used to burn children alive in refugee camps in Rafah was supplied by the United States. Now you guys see why the Biden administration refuses to acknowledge that Israel is committing war crimes, that Israel is committing a genocide, because doing so would directly implicate them. This is the depravity of the Western rules-based order on full display. This is why it was so absurd for the ICC not to issue arrest warrants for Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken. They are a giant player and just as complicit at this genocide as Netanyahu. Here is John Kirby from the Biden administration essentially saying they have no red lines on Israel because we are all war criminals. So who are we to judge?
We have conducted airstrikes in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, where tragically we caused civilian casualties. We did the same thing.
It's so wild to see people in the establishment admitting something that people on the left have been saying for years now regarding the United States foreign policy, and they are doing so in order to protect Israel. Saying that we're war criminals so we cannot judge Israel is not the banger of an argument they think it is. Why do they keep saying it out loud?
In its place. And if the ICC is allowed to threaten Israel's leaders, we know that America will be next.
If they'll do this to Israel, we're next. This group tried to come after our soldiers. Yeah, you can clap all you want to.
This is like creating a moral equivalence after September 11th between President Bush and Osama bin Laden. That's like saying after 9/11, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for bin Laden.
The new axis of evil, the United States, UK, and Israel, are trying to put themselves above the law and upend international law as we know it. We cannot let them succeed. What's poppin'? This video here, you guys saw a little bit of this. Big shout out to my team at Hotspot that helped me edit this in during my Hotspot videos there. This is amazing. Because I'm sure that you spend your career, your time explaining the war crimes of the United States empire. and I can only speak for myself, for only doing it for about 3 years. We get hit with a lot of skepticism from more liberal-minded people, more conservative-minded people. Now, what I find incredible in this moment is how pathetic the current empire managers are. They're fumbling the ball in a way I've never seen before. And it's because it's their hubris. And I'm down to, because I debate this with friends about what's going on. I had a debate with my friends who saying they're trying to destroy our country on purpose. I'm like, no, I don't think it's that. I don't think they're trying to destroy it. This is, and I understand why people say that, but their moves they're making is absurd because for a very long time, the strategy of the empire has been deny, project. In order to protect Israel, and in order to create a new normal where what Israel is doing is justified, you now have the United States officials admitting stuff that me and Gabriel have been explaining for years now. So I want you to respond to this in any way you want. Only 45-minute clip of John Kirby saying what us leftists have been saying for a while now.
We have conducted airstrikes in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, where tragically we caused civilian casualties. We did the same thing. We owned up to it. We investigated it. And we tried to make changes to the way we tried to learn from it, to make changes so that those set of mistakes wouldn't happen again, including as we pulled out of Afghanistan, where we did take we conducted an airstrike, which tragically killed a father and some of his kids. We atoned for it. We learned from it. And we put in place procedures to try to prevent that from happening again. And that's what our expectations would be in this case. We have.
What do you mean you atoned for it? What does that mean? Who atoned for it? Who? Gabriel, you have any reactions to this?
Well, I mean, it's a kind of standard PR line. It's what some people refer to as a faith in government campaign, right? Yeah. That the U.S. government or other imperialist governments commit, clear crimes. And then they say, well, we investigated it. We found the wrongdoers. There were a few bad apples, and now everything's good. And the purpose of a faith in government campaign is to say, well, we committed a few mistakes that we'll admit, in order to then shore up people's confidence in the government. But this type of propaganda campaign doesn't really cover the tracks of the bloody tracks of the US empire. Let me just give you one example that immediately comes to mind. There was a study that was done by 14 former members of the Central Intelligence Agency in 1987. And they found that between 1947 and 1987, the CIA was responsible for the death globally of a minimum of 6 million people. 6 million people, right? That is how this government functions. There aren't little mistakes, some misdeeds, a few bad apples. There's a structural relationship between the global north and the global south, with the global north being led by the leading imperialist power, in which untold levels of death and destruction have been unleashed on the peoples of this world. And you can't tell me that there were a few mistakes, we atoned for them, now everything's fine, have faith in our government. That doesn't fly if you actually know the extent to which this violence is not intermittent. That's what they're trying to get us to believe. There's intermittent violence. There's a few events. No, the violence is systemic. And if the violence is systemic, then you have to change the system. Otherwise, there's going to be future quote unquote mistakes that they'll atone for, etc. That's how they preserve the system. And that's why they run these faith in government campaigns, because they want people to keep believing in the system.
Yeah, that's so amazingly well said. And I explained to many people before, I want people to decolonize your mind, because as people are afraid of Jamal on the corner who's just struggling to get by, you guys understand the biggest gangster is that guy in the suit that I just showed you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these are the biggest mob boss. These are the most violent motherfuckers in the world. As you have a lot of racists who like, oh my God, look how violent this community is. Look how violent your community is. Look at what black people are doing. Look at what these people are racking up body counts, that will make the biggest tyrants in history blush. And they don't win wars, as I explained before. They commit mass slaughter without accomplishing their objective. If you look at what their stated objective was, we have lost every single war in the modern era. And I'll start that from World War II. Maybe there'll be like small conflicts here and there, but every major conflict, we have not accomplished our stated objective. Our objective was to root out all communism on the Korean Peninsula. There's a reason why there's a North Korea. So they didn't accomplish their objective. What they did was kill 2 million Koreans.
Yeah.
They didn't defeat the Viet Cong. What they did is tortured and killed millions of people. They bombed Cambodia in the Stone Ages. And European society and American society viewed this carnage as victory. And that's why it takes me back to this day. It's something I truly don't understand. And it's why I deeply despise this culture. Mm-hmm. These people who worship, say thank you for your service to these people who committed mass atrocities. They're not heroes. They're not warriors. They're cowards. But we got a lot covered, so I'll move on. Unless you want to chime in, feel free to interrupt anytime, Gabriel. I won't get
one thought that I had on what you just said is that it's really important to be able to see through the power projection of the U.S. empire, because one of the things that the U.S. as an empire probably has done more powerfully than any empire prior in history is its control of the human mindscape through its culture industries. And by culture industries, I mean all of them. I mean sports and movies and TV shows and so-called news and all of that. They project this power as if they're all powerful. Israel's done the same thing, right? And we see where that got them. These are not all powerful forces. What they want to do is beat it into our minds that they could never possibly be defeated, in order to intimidate those who think that, well, actually the world would be a lot safer if we didn't have this imperial force unleashing untold levels of violence all of the time. And so that seeing through power projection is essential. And it is true, there are minor examples like the Reagan administration overthrew the successful revolution in Grenada, which is a small island. That was a brutal, brutal assault on the right of the people of Grenada to self-determination. And their military could carry that out. not in a successful manner in the sense that actually, making Grenada a better place or anything like that. Of course, not by any stretch of the imagination. But you're absolutely right. Oh, the slightly larger conflicts like that, there were victories, but the victories were on the part of the peasants of Vietnam who were fighting for self-determination and trying to get the imperialist powers out of their country. That was the victory, right? It took between 1945 and 1975 for that victory to finally occur. So 30 years of bloody onslaught with, horrific levels of the use of napalm and bombing and everything else. So I think that perspective is really essential.